It is time for Around the 412 with Smitty and Tyler.
Welcome back to another episode of Around the 412. I am Tyler. With me, as always, is my co-host Smitty. Be sure to follow us on all of our social medias at Around the 412. We keep it easy for you. And if you're not watching the show over there already, go check us out on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. And leave a like on the videos. It really helps us out. Also, go follow us wherever you listen to the listening platforms of the show, whether it be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere you find podcasts. We are probably there. So go follow us there. Leave a 5-star review and check out the description of each and every show. We've got several links to all of our great sponsors. And if you're interested in sponsoring Around the 412, particularly if you are a Pittsburgh business, because that would make sense, as we're all about Pittsburgh sports, hit us up. Our email, I believe, is it in our X bio or Twitter bio? I believe so. So you can hit us up through email, or you could direct message us on any of those social media platforms as well. So let us know if you're interested in being a sponsor for Around the 412. Smitty, is football season back? Because
we're back.
Feel like
OTAs.
We're back. Wait, so the gap between hockey ending and baseball being over, that's diminished a little bit because we're no longer like kind of waiting for football. Can we officially say like football's back?
Yeah, I think it depends on the team that you root for, but because we're Steelers fans and it's like there's year-round interest, I think that we're able to say like football's back at the point that we get to OTAs. So there's always going to be storylines. Like obviously we've been waiting on the Aaron Rodgers thing. We're going to dive into the TJ Watt thing. We're going to dive into them looking for another pass catcher. Like there is always things to talk about. It's why, as opposed to the Pirates and Penguins shows, we're able to do this year round without taking a lull, without taking a break. So it's always really Steelers season, but football season absolutely back. Here, I do want to give a shout out real quick. We're going to be talking about them on every episode from now until the outing. But if you guys remember, man, like going back to when this podcast started, we were still playing in this tournament when it was a softball tournament being held by the Horace Nickel Foundation. Well, Horace Nickel Memorial Foundation now doing a golf outing. This will be the first year of doing it. Super excited to get rolling with this thing. I am not a golf participant.
Are you participating? Are you participating? Because
no, I'll be there helping out. I'm not playing in it.
Man, if any of you are really interested, I got a video stash away of Smitty swinging a golf swing.
Oh, is it Top Golf?
So, yeah.
Yeah, I figured.
I got that video.
There's been a little bit of practice since then. I want to get into golf before I'm like old, because I know I'm gonna want to be playing golf when I'm older. So like,
I mean, define
old. Has
to
happen soon,
buddy. You're turning 30 in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's got to happen. It's got to happen here within the next couple of years so that I can do that in my older stages of life. But yes, the Horace Nickel Memorial Golf Outing registration up right now. I'll put the link down below. You can register up until July 5th. The outing itself will take place on Saturday, August 16th at 9 a.m. At Fox Run Golf Course. If you are in the greater Pittsburgh area, Western PA area, you're probably familiar with that pretty popular golf course, but all the information will be down below. Cost is $400 per team. It's a team of 4. Of course, I think that's pretty standard for golf outings. Not that I'm the biggest golf outing guy, as you can tell by this conversation. But the link to that will be down below. If you guys have been, again, watching or listening to this podcast since we started it in 2017, you know how near and dear this thing is to Tyler and I's hearts. So if you want to participate, please do so. Even if maybe you want to sponsor, because we're going to be doing that. I'm paying for us to sponsor a hole as well, not only Around the 412, but also Steelers Afternoon Drive. Going to be doing one for each of them. So pretty excited about that. But if you want to do that, you can reach out over there as well. Again, I'll have that link down below in the description along with our sponsors and stuff.
Little fun fact,
yes.
Bringing this up now. We met 10 years ago this summer at the charity softball game. We met because I played in it with our friend Cody on his team, which is with a bunch of other Beaver people in 2015. And then we continued playing on it for the next several years. But yeah, we met pretty much 10 years ago this summer. Yeah, the Royals.
Oh, yep. Listen, people are not going to want to hear this. Like, they're here to talk about TJ Watt and Jonnu Smith, but we had an instant classic of a game one year against Ross's team in this tournament. I don't remember what the score was, but we were down by, I don't know if it was by 2 or 3. I hit a home run to tie it, and I'm like back in the dugout. I haven't even taken my batting gloves off yet. And then whoever was hitting behind me hits a walk-off homer the very next pitch. Like, it was an insane game. It come back to, I think we came back from like 6 runs in the last inning or something like that.
The score was like 18-17 or something like. I'm pretty sure that goes something around there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we end up winning by 1, but I don't remember what the score was going into that last inning because we were down. I hit a tying home run, and then before I can even do anything,
I think it was something like 17-15. You tied it, and then we walked it off.
Okay. Either way,
and I also saved us that. I don't know if you remember the top half of that inning. I also saved us being at third base because one of our sponsors, Marcelo Electric Boots, hit a piss missile at third base, which would have definitely been a scoring run, but I was able to snatch that thing out of the air. I'm looking like IKF out there trying to reach up for what at a normal person's height, it's at my chest, but I looked like IKF having to jump up and grab up there for a normal sized ball. But yeah, that was an exciting game.
6 minutes into this thing, let's talk about the Steelers now and transition away from talking about that again. If you're interested, that link's down below, along with all of our other sponsors. But as the first week of OTAs wrap up, we are still on Aaron Rodgers' watch. Honestly, don't have too much to say about that. Don't want to bore the people. It's not like there's any new information out there. I fully expect
we said it last week. We said it last week that our cutoff dates or expectation dates, like, I don't know. Do you agree with Derek where you're at like June 10th is probably like where you expect him to sign by?
Listen, if he's not there for the mandatory stuff, that's where it gets tough for me. I can understand the OTAs thing, and there's no obligation for him to be there at mandatory, but there's also no obligation for the Steelers to sign him either. Like, that's my rebuttal to that. So if you want to be a part of this team, I think that is when he would need to be around. Not because of, I mean, I keep saying this just on the off chance that there's somebody that watches literally only this podcast and has never seen another one that we put out. But for me, it's just about the specific things that he looks for from his receivers. We know how detailed he is. He's got specific hand gestures and checks and stuff that he needs to be installed within this offense. I have no questions about him being able to pick up the offense just through training camp, but to be able to get that camaraderie and be on the same page with his pass catchers, I think it's imperative for me that he be there for mandatory stuff.
Do you think if George was a receiver for him still, would this be a hand signal? He'd be at the line, and then he would just go like, give him one of those real quick.
I thought you were going to say, George was getting fined and stuff for the guns and stuff like that. So
no, just flips in the bird real quick.
Yeah. I don't think that would go over too well. I thought you were going to ask me how I thought that pairing would go. Yeah, I mean, that would be interesting to me, how Aaron would respond to somebody like George who can mentally check out at times. It isn't
the pairing oriented guy. Personality wise, I don't think would check out, but if you just strip away the actual personalities and look straight at the athletes, I think it would have been great pairing on the field.
I mean, yeah. From a talent perspective, like, as long as George was bought in, and he had said in the past that he liked the idea of catching passes from Aaron, so maybe he would have been. Maybe that would have been a way to get him to buy in, was having somebody that he looked up to and was the one quarterback he wanted to catch passes from as his guy. Granted, much later stage in his career than I think George would have hoped for or envisioned. But nonetheless, not much else to say there. We'll see when and if Aaron Rodgers does join the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm still fully expecting that to happen, and hopefully by that June 10th date that you had mentioned. I think the one that's going to be interesting to see if he's there June 10th is TJ. And it's wild that I'm even saying this, but not that I would have expected that a contract would be signed by now, but I didn't expect the negative messaging coming from his brother, on the Pat McAfee show, where he's been on there twice now talking about organizations getting deals done sooner. And I don't think that's just a coincidence and a general thought. Maybe it is a general thought for the way the team should do business, but it seems pretty pointed at the Steelers with the TJ Watt contract situation. And I'm curious as to your take on this, because I just can't figure out why. There's no benefit to me. It's actually would have been less beneficial had TJ signed already. He is made out by letting these other guys sign.
You mean less beneficial for TJ himself?
Yeah, on the financial side of things, because he's going to make. I mean, that's why the other part of this, it's pretty set in stone what he's going to make, in my opinion. It's okay, Myles Garrett got paid $40 million. Do you want to be just above that in terms of a per average, but maybe get less guaranteed? Or would you rather have higher guaranteed, but maybe $1 million less on the per year average? They set that market You know where you got to be with TJ Watt. It seems pretty cut and dry to me. It's just not the point in the calendar that they do business. And maybe that's what he's pushing back against, but it's like, what, like he's gone through business with the Steelers already before. Why this time is it now more contentious? Why is it so imperative that they would have signed him earlier this time around? I have a hard time trying to wrap my mind around it. Alan said he, is chomping at the bit to ask TJ about it. Not that he, TJ's didn't give him necessarily a truthful answer, but like, why this time around does it seem like there's more contentious feelings that there's not a deal done already when you've seen the timeline play out how the Steelers do business already in the past? It's just, I don't know, but I wouldn't have thought anything of it. Like his absence from OTAs, like whatever, that's like pretty standard procedure. Like Cam wasn't there last year. DK wasn't there this year for OTAs. That is what, and he also has a new baby. But for me, it's about the messaging again coming from his brother. I think that's why this is even a conversation. Not once, twice now. He has mentioned about teams getting deals done sooner with players.
Yeah, I have a couple thoughts on this pertaining to the entire thing. So for JJ talking on the Pat McAfee show, for me, it's like, why is no Steeler fan that's on that show or is working for that show bringing up to JJ why like the Steelers don't operate this way? We've seen this pretty much your brother's entire career, but even going beyond that, going basically for the end of time and to the beginning of when the Steelers organization was created, they have operated the same exact way. When contracts are going to get done, if they happen before training camp, it happens like right before training camp happens. And if it happens during the preseason, that's going to happen. It's going to happen sometime between the start of training camp and when the season is actually starting. So I don't know why someone on that show wouldn't have brought that up. I know that there's several Steeler fans on that show. So that's an interesting thing to me. I also don't know why. I understand that JJ is coming to the defense of his brother in all of this. And even if he wasn't directly talking about that, it was kind of poignant. Like we know what he was saying whenever he's saying those things, especially considering the situation that his brother is in. So I understand that he's coming to the defense of his brother in that aspect, but also as JJ Watt, you are. I mean, would you consider him like an NFL analyst? Is that what he is his role at this point? Like
he's actually to me being put in a bigger role, I think. Like
so to me, you also should understand that the Steelers organization just doesn't really operate that way. Now, whether you agree with it or not, that's a little different, but he should know that that's really not going to change anything as far as what the Rooneys and what Omar Khan and the Steelers organization are actually going to do in terms of a contract specifically for his brother, but not just his brother, really just anybody searching for a contract that is up on an expiring deal. That's just another thing in my mind too, just talking about JJ bringing those things up. And like I said, understand he's defending his brother, but as an NFL analyst, I think that you would also understand how the Steelers organization operates. But as far as the actual contract not happening yet, the market being set by Myles Garrett and the Browns, I don't know why there would be more contention this time around than there was the first time when you were given TJ, the big contract. To me, it seemed like this offseason was going to be an easy contract for TJ. And even despite the other, like you could bring up Myles Garrett already getting his contract. People have talked about Micah Parsons and Dallas getting a new contract and resetting the market there. Like I don't really understand why this time around would be more contentious on TJ's end of things, because I feel like the Steelers are going to pay you. That's one thing that
that's what it would have been harder to do this earlier in my opinion, honestly, for both sides, because you'd kind of be predicting what the market was going to. I mean, Cleveland, I'm not going to say exploded it, but went a little bit over everybody else. Like he's making $4 million than the second guy right now, the Neil Hunter. So like he elevated it a little bit more, but like they set the market for you. Everybody besides Trey Hendrickson, and obviously who knows what's going to happen with Parsons. I guess that doesn't necessarily have to happen yet. But like those other guys all got paid. Like they dictated the market for you. They said it. So there's something to be said about, from a team perspective, being the first ones to pay a guy, and from a player perspective, it being more beneficial to wait it out. TJ is in a position where, whether he wanted to or not, waited it out. So he's going to get that money unless there's some thought that like it's not going to happen. And like, I guess we could have that conversation. From everything that I've heard, I have a hard time believing that. Here's what I'll say, and this is some information, but also an educated guess. I think Omar would listen on TJ Watt trade offers. I don't think Omar is like so handcuffed to the idea of TJ Watt having to finish his career as a Steeler. I don't think Tomlin and Rooney would let that happen, though. And I know Omar is the GM. Rooney is the owner, and Tomlin might as well be the GM. So it ain't happening. But I just wanted to put that out there because I think that's kind of where things stand from like the powers that be side of things for the Steelers. It's hard to wrap my mind around this being contentious, especially right now, like the point of the calendar that we're at. That's why, to me, it screams TJ's pushing back against the way that the Steelers have done business and operated in the past. For whatever reason, he's trying to buck that trend.
And maybe this is a cynical way to look at things and kind of going against what you just talked about, where Omar Khan may be willing to trade TJ Watt and Rooney and Tomlin are not going to be able to. But we've brought up on the show before how we might have seen TJ Watt's best football behind him, like 2024, and all things considered.
Track record, I'd venture to guess he's not going to do it again.
So, and I understand, like tying the sack record, like obviously his best year is probably behind him in terms of sack totals, but even just looking at 2023 to 2024, you're looking at someone that went from 19 sacks to 11.5 sacks. I feel like, considering the type of player that TJ is too, that's a realistic conversation. Like he's not this natural phenomenon of an athlete like Myles Garrett is, just physically. He wins with his finesse. He wins with his just overall like move sets and everything that he has going on for him. But he's not someone that's going to like overbear you physically like a Myles Garrett can. And I feel like those types of players are going to evolve later in their careers differently. And so I know that if it were up to me, I would sign TJ still. I'm not saying that or any of this to like make it seem like I want to trade TJ or I don't want to give him that extension. But I can understand, at least from Omar Khan's standpoint, like thinking by what you just said, that maybe TJ Watt's best days are behind him. Maybe he's not worth that money down the road. Maybe he is right now, but in year 2, year 3, what is that contract and what is the play on the field? How is that going to actually match up? So I can understand that a little bit. Now, as far as what's happening this summer, I think a contract is going to happen. I think ultimately they are going to pay him. And whether that is, like you were mentioning, matching around the money or a little bit more, but less guaranteed, or more guaranteed and a little less per year than what Myles Garrett was getting, I ultimately think that the Steelers are going to sign TJ Watt. I don't think that it's a big deal that it's not happening right now. Like you mentioned, like several players have missed OTAs before, especially in contract years. It's nothing new that you're seeing with the Steelers. Now, if we get to mandatory minicamp and a contract is still not signed, like that is a little bit more alarming if TJ Watt doesn't show up, but I still don't even know that if that's that big of a deal if he doesn't show up. Now, if this goes on into training camp, to me, that's where the big deal is happening.
We'll talk about that when we come back. First off, we're talking about TJ Watt. We already know they got the design over there. We know what he is on the field, at least at present time. He's a game changer. What's going on, everybody? Smitty from Around the 412, and I just want to take a quick second to give a shout out to our folks at Game Changers. Their logo on the screen right now, right above my microphone. Over 2,000 different designs in their catalog. Luxury heavyweight material. I am wearing one of their shirts right now. Best vintage t-shirts in the game. Head over to gamechanger.la or pick6.la to pick up some shirts. And guess what? Use code AT412. Save yourself $10 on your order every single time. Again, gamechanger.la or pick6.la. Best vintage t-shirts in the game. Check them out. So here's my thing as it relates to the mandatory stuff. We talked about it like being a statement, right? Like whether or not he meant anything by it, we know that we're going to read into with a peace sign on the Instagram story. Then now his brother with the messaging on the Pat McAfee show. Those are things that we are like, they send a message. I think if we get to mandatory and he's still not there, I don't expect a contract to be signed. Like, again, I think the Steelers go operate on their timeline they normally do. So the question is he going to be there or not? And whether it's a big deal from a football perspective or not, I think the statement that it's going to make would be the biggest part of it. If you're willing to eat fines to not be there during mandatory stuff, that to me is the biggest thing that's going to come out of this. And then I'm like really, I don't know if perplexed is the right word, but like really questioning where all this is coming from and what the end result's going to be. Does he end up playing out? Is it even feasible for him to play out the last year? Like, I don't know. Like, because it's hard for me to have a take on the way that the rest is going to play out because it's already gotten to the point where I've had to pivot on my thought on it because it's been different than I expected. Like, again, didn't think that something would have been signed by now, but also would have never have thought we'd be getting like a negative messaging from his camp about it not being signed.
Yeah, and I this is, again, I'm not trying to like say anything bad about TJ or his camp or anything like that. No. But why is it this time around that it's almost seeming like more drama about this contract? Like I feel like obviously the first time around it played out longer. It went into training camp and everything like that. But why this? I don't understand why the second extension this time around it is being drowned out like this and being treated like this. Honestly, I feel like there should be some understanding from both sides that the contract's going to get done. I mean, even like last year, I just researched, like Cam Hayward went to mandatory minicamp. So if TJ Watt isn't going to that stuff, where's the bad blood coming from this time around? I just don't understand it. Yeah,
I wonder if the Steelers are surprised by the reaction from his side of things, or if they like knew this was coming.
I mean, maybe they know more. Obviously, they didn't know more. I'm just a fan. But I don't think that I expected this to be happening when it came to contract talks. I'm sure that not everybody is surprised like me in that organization, but I'm sure it's surprising some people. I wonder, and I know this matters less because they're not involved at all. They just work with him, technically, play with him. But like, I wonder what teammates think of this sort of stuff. Like, what do they think of like TJ and his camp reacting this way to not having a contract yet? I don't know. The whole thing to me is just interesting that this time around, it seemed like this is such an easy answer for a contract that you're going to get one and you're going to get paid a big dollar amount. And just because you don't have one at the end of May right now, and it honestly, you brought it up, it's more beneficial for you to wait for that contract to come. I just don't understand the frustration on the Watt side of things.
He's legitimately probably going to get $5 million more per season because he didn't sign prior. Like if he would have signed last year, I think it would have been the ballpark of $35 million that they could have gotten it done at. Now you're talking about in the 40 range.
Well, we probably, I don't remember if we were actually throwing out numbers whenever we were discussing this, but before Myles Garrett was talked at the end of last season or very early in the offseason when the Steelers lost in the playoffs, we have brought this up. I don't know if we threw out numbers, but I feel like there was a time where we mentioned like probably 35 million as the actual number.
Yeah, the number before for me was 4 years, 140, which is 35 per 7.
Yeah, and now that Myles Garrett set the market, you're going to get more than that. That's where I just don't understand the frustration.
I would honestly, I'd like for it to be a 3-year deal, and I would be willing to guarantee pretty much all of it. I know that it's not necessarily how the Steelers do business. I think the big thing for me is going to be, we've seen now, I don't know if concerning is the right word, but I think something to at least take a look at, the way that the season has trended for him, whether it's injury or just like the play falling off towards the end of the year, what the reason for that is. I don't know. Maybe the fact that he's playing 85 to 90% of the snaps throughout the season. So while I didn't love the selection, if there's a thought with the Jack Sawyer pick that him and Nick Herbig can provide that type of relief for TJ and Alex Highsmith, where they're not playing that much and less becomes more, quality over quantity in terms of the snaps. And then we're seeing him play consistently, even in weeks 15, 16, 17, and 18. Then I think that could have been a good pick. And maybe that's how you get your return on investment, because you're not only getting Jack Sawyer, the player, you're prolonging the productivity of TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith for that matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that ultimately, sounds funny saying it, TJ Watt playing less is a good thing. I mean, looking at his snap counts for the entire year, the last few years. So his lowest snap count percentage in his career actually was in 2021, where it was 73% of the defensive snaps. That jumped up to 83% for 2022 and 2023, and last year tied his career, or actually no, his career high was 88% in 2020. Jeez, just didn't come off the field, but 86% in 2024 at 30 years old. Like I don't think that if you're kind of like how I mentioned how the player build, the player type, the comparison to Myles Garrett, they're just completely two different players playing similar positions, but they're not going to develop the same way. I don't think that TJ Watt is going to prolong his career by playing 80+% of the snaps for the next several years. If I think that that's going to do the opposite effect, I think that you'll see him done with football if that continues. Now, like you're saying, if the Jack Sawyer pick, if Nick Herbig is able to relieve him in some of that and get him back to, I mean, if he can be around 75% of the snaps, if they could just relieve him a little bit, that's something that I think that would be a pro for the Steelers. I mean, think about what we talked about for a long time. I mean, this is almost honestly close to a decade ago now, but what we talked about with Le'Veon Bell all the time, that like by the end of the season, he was going to be worn out because of all the snaps that he played. We needed somebody to spell him. If Jack Sawyer can be that type of player, to be able to do that for TJ Watt, that's also just going to be a benefit for the prolonging of his career, going to be a benefit for this contract, which will happen. I'm confident that it will happen, just not exactly sure when. But yeah, 86% of the snaps as a 30-year-old, that's going to be wear and tear on that type of player's body. That's going to be the reason why we see the decline and the diminish in play from the start of the year to the end of the year that we've seen with TJ Watt. And I think that that's just going to continue if the Steelers don't figure out a way to keep him fresh throughout the regular season.
Injury is part of it too, for sure. So yeah, I mean, obviously you want TJ playing in obvious pass rush situations, but like he doesn't need to play every time on first down. And like Jack Sawyer, bigger body, good against the run. I think that's why, you know, you bring in that type of body type to spell the edge rush group, because he's a little bit of a different build than what they had in that room. But we'll see how things play out there. Want to talk about something else that's interesting. We've obviously talked about that edge group being one of the stronger units they have, one of the weaker units that they have, the wide receiving room. We know that they've been on the hunt, if you will, sniffing around the market for another pass catcher. Talked a lot about wide receivers. It did not occur to me, heck, maybe they do the tight end route if there's one out there. One that's maybe like a glorified slot receiver, like a Jonnu Smith. Word being put out there by Adam Schefter that Pittsburgh was engaged in trade discussions. He was a Pro Bowler last year in Miami for Pro Bowler Jonnu Smith, 900 yards last year. A little bit of a career year. Obviously, they dealt with some injuries in their wide receiving room last year. So there was a lot of like schemed up touches for Jonnu. He can do a lot of different things. Really good in the screen game. You can hand him the ball even times. They would do some like tight end rounds. But this is interesting to me, and I don't know how much stock to put into this. He needs a new deal. Only do like $4.5 million. He's looking for a raise, looking for a new deal. And that's kind of the way that I'm looking at this through that scope. Is to me, this screams Rosenhaus trying to get him a new deal. Also, very much reportedly wants to stay in Miami on a new deal. This screams Rosenhaus trying to get him that new deal in Miami and using the fact that he knows Pittsburgh has the Arthur Smith ties and needs a pass catcher to use Pittsburgh as leverage in doing so.
Yeah, when I saw the news, I thought that this was an interesting path if the Steelers were actually going to pursue this. I understand that they need another pass catcher. I would think that would ultimately be a wide receiver. If they added another tight end, Jonnu Smith would make sense as a player, just type, to be able to do that pretty much just a pass catcher at the tight end position. Had a career year last year, and honestly, at $4.5 million, that's a bargain for Miami. And I understand him wanting to make some more money on that, considering the year that he had last season. But it didn't really make sense to me why they would want to do that when I looked at the Steelers roster they already had. And to me, this is trading for another Pat Freiermuth. They're very similar type of players. And you brought up before we were talking that Jonnu's honestly worse at blocking than Pat is. So you're getting a worse blocker, but essentially the same type of player as a receiver. I ultimately think that the Steelers would not go that route when it came to getting another pass catcher. I would think that they would go for, maybe if it's a free agent, probably the Keenan Allen route, or if they wanted to wait for one of those Green Bay receivers that we've talked about, or the Texans receivers, whichever it may be. I just don't see this as a realistic possibility. Number one, I don't even know what you would give up for him as far as like going back to Miami. I don't know what type of picks they're going to even want. I think for me personally, if you're getting past I would probably give a single 4th round pick, maybe, because you also have the caveat of like him wanting another contract too. So that you got to add that on top of it. I just personally would not make this trade if the Steelers are serious about this happening. I don't think that it makes a ton of sense. I understand the Arthur Smith connection. I know that the Steelers with Arthur Smith are going to run a lot of 12 personnel to a tight end sets, but I don't necessarily think that this is the route that they should go as far as another pass catcher goes. I can understand the interest because of the year that he had. I just wouldn't do it. I don't think that what the picks or what the value as far as a trade partner is going to go is going to be there. And I just don't think that really for your team, that's the best option you're going to get. I would think that you're probably better suited for waiting for one of those Green Bay receivers, or even depending on like the value for the trade. Now, if you traded for Jonnu Smith and say it was like a single 5th and you compared that to signing someone like Keenan Allen, maybe that's more intriguing to me. But as far as like what the Steelers need, I think that signing Keenan Allen free agency is for nothing as far as like value, not giving up a pick for it goes, is going to be better in terms of the value for what the Steelers are going to get from that player.
I think the Steelers made a general call to Miami, like they have pretty much every team in the NFL, and said what's available in terms of pass catchers. And like I said, Drew Rosenhaus looking for a new contract for Jonnu Smith parlayed that information into this information being given to Adam Schefter that they were asking about Jonnu Smith. That's my take on it. And in terms of the other thing you said, I think it's really interesting because Alan asked me that exact scenario. If I'd rather have Keenan Allen or trade for Jonnu Smith. And I said Keenan Allen because Jonnu Smith, to me, it's not just a 1-year deal. I think you would need to give him multiple years to suffice. He could probably ask for like 2 years, $20 million, I think, pretty easily when you look at the tight end market. Well, I'll come back to that too because it's interesting in general. Or Keenan Allen not giving up a draft pick for no 2026 investment, in my opinion. Like literally just a 1-year deal to bring him in and, maybe like what a guy to learn from for Roman Wilson and Calvin Austin, in my opinion, 2 young players in this league. Well, I mean, Calvin's going into year 4, geez, but you get the point. Still a lot to learn in terms of, expanding.
Yeah, we had a whole segment about giving him a second contract.
Yeah, I know. After I said that, I was like, But but I wanted to get back to the tight end thing just because it's like, what is Miami doing at tight end if they trade Jonnu Smith? Like, there's so few good tight ends. You have one on your roster right now. Like, if you go through teams that would make sense for Jonnu Smith, Miami's at the top of the list. So if you don't have Jonnu Smith on the roster, how are you replacing it? And that's why I think because of that, you look at all these other teams that could use a tight end too. Pittsburgh, to me, I would have a hard time thinking they're going to put forth the best offer to do it. Like if they were just take this to the market, say we get more serious about a Jonnu Smith trade, clearly he's not getting paid Miami. His preference becomes, transitions from wanting to be there to not wanting to be there. They open this up to, the rest of the league to make offers for too. I have a hard time believing Pittsburgh's anywhere close to the best offer that would be put on the table. Teams need tight end talent. He's one of the top, I don't know, somewhere within 8 to 10 tight ends in this league, especially coming off the year that he had. I don't see it.
Miami's tight end depth right now, if you take away Jonnu Smith, is Pharaoh Brown, Julian Hill, Tanner Connor, and Hayden Rucci are currently listed as
like
tight
they would
ends
need to
on
get
their
one back,
roster.
right?
Yeah, they would. I mean, if you throw in a fifth and Connor Hayward for Jonnu Smith, like I don't think the Steelers are a realistic option for that. And I think that it's a good shout saying that this is basically a contract negotiation in and of itself, just the news leaking for Miami to give him more money. Also, this is something that I also was thinking about when I was thinking about Pat is, are the Steelers going to be the team to give another tight end I don't, what number would Jonnu Smith get? Probably around like 10 million ish.
That's why I had him at 10,
an
but like
extension.
honestly,
so would the Steelers be a team to give another tight end that type of extension? I know it wouldn't be as long
over
as
22 million invested in tight end room.
Right. Yeah. The year that Pat's is kicking in. And that I just don't think that the Steelers on both sides of it, whether it comes to the value that you're going to be giving up to acquire the asset or what you're going to have to pay the asset, I just don't think that makes sense for Pittsburgh.
I mean, this right after basically Jordan Schultz put out there that they were having preliminary discussions about acquiring another playmaker to pair with DK Metcalf. And I even quoted, I was like, this same thing could be said every day for the last 15 months, save like a month and a half where we had George Pickens and DK Metcalf on the roster and just changed the name from George Pickens to DK Metcalf. And this exact same post has been said how many times? Yeah, they're calling everybody, and that's how Miami came into play here. John Smith came into play here,
and sitting in his office, dragging a cigarette because he's just so sick of it right now.
Yeah,
having to dial the same numbers he was dialing last year to ask the same question that he asked last year.
Brandon Ayuk, come on down. I mean, I think best case scenario is they end up with one of the Packers guys that we've talked about, Romeo Doubs or Dontavian Wicks. You could talk me into a fourth for Doubs, but because he's only got the 1 year left of his contract, I think ideally that's a fifth and a fourth would be for Wicks. I think those are the two ideal scenarios, is one of those Green Bay guys coming over. I think the most realistic scenario is I haven't heard anything about the free agent guys, the Keenan Allens, Amari Cooper, Gabe Davises of the world. I think the most realistic scenario is they end up signing one of the guys that like are on roster cut down days and they're wide receiver 5 or 6 pushing Scotty Miller off the roster. And it's like not much of a difference. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think to me, I don't know that that's worth it. I think for it to be somebody that makes sense for them to go get, they got to at least crack your top 4. And the guys that we're talking about aren't doing that. Like, whoever they acquire should be better than Robert Woods. Otherwise, to me, it doesn't make sense.
Robert Woods is no lower than wide receiver 3 right now. Like, would you even say?
I mean, I guess, I guess he's wide receiver 3 right now, just because you haven't seen Roman Wilson do anything in pads. But like, to me, the way that I'd be looking at the pecking order once we get to the regular season with this roster we have right now is Metcalf, Austin, Roman Wilson, Robert Woods by that time.
I mean, yeah, ideally you want him to be better than Robert Woods. Honestly, ideally, I want him to be better than Calvin Austin. I just don't know how realistic that's going to be as an option.
I mean, the only option, I mean, the Green Bay guys to me would be. And the other option would be, man, I know I mentioned it like as a joke. San Francisco definitely needs to get some money off their books. Like, I wonder, to me, they would have had to have done it before the lead year because they paid his salary this year now, pretty much. Mm-hmm. But if you go back to them and you offer them a third, does that do anything for them? I don't know.
Do you think Steelers fans would be mad, or would they be?
They shouldn't be. To me, it's an enticing contract to take on because of the fact San Francisco's already paid him this year. You're paying him. You're making a little bit of a. There's a little bit of a risk next year, $27 million, but like, okay, it's 1 year, and then the 2 years after that are non-guaranteed. So you got 1 year, 2026, where it's a little bit of a risk, and you don't have a quarterback contract on the books. Like, that's the shot we're taking.
Yeah, that's true. Do you think if ultimately, whenever whenever I'm just going to say whenever Aaron Rodgers signs, because I truly believe that he's just going to be a Pittsburgh Steelers. Do you think that the Adam Lazard conversation opens up then, or does it get more serious then?
Yeah, I think so. I think that we've been talking about it here and there as kind of like, hey, if Rodgers signs, is Allen Lazard a realistic option? And the answer's been yes. I think once he is signed and he's here, I think it becomes much more of a conversation. I said most realistic was like getting the roster. That would be at the top. I think that is at the top. Is Allen Lazard something? I don't know if it would have to be. I don't know if they would have to trade something or if he's a guy that is in jeopardy of losing his job. It's cut down to years. But I mean, they sent a 5th round pick for rental Mike Williams. They'd probably send a 5th or 6th round pick for Allen Lazard.
Yeah, and I mean, considering some of the comp picks that they have in next year's draft, I don't really think it's going to be. It would be looked at as like a lot to give up if you're getting him too.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think it'll be much more of a conversation once Aaron does sign. But if we got to ask this on Steelers Afternoon Drive this week, putting us on the spot, will the team acquire a receiver before the season starts? My answer is probably going to change on this so many times because of how much time. But with the amount of time we have from right now until the end of or till the regular season gets here, for right now, it's going to be a yes. However, I already acknowledge that the same conversation's been taking place for 15 months. So it's not a guarantee by any means that they acquire somebody.
Here's what I'll add to that, though. I think it's more realistic this time around because all of their eyes aren't set on one guy. The focus isn't set on one guy. That was very clear last year that it was Ayuk or bust early on because you started seeing free agent guys that made sense for the Steelers to be signed, whether it be in the beginning of free agency, around the draft, post-draft, or even in the summer, of guys that the Steelers could have added to their wide receiver room that did not happen. I just don't get the sense that this year it's all or bust for one specific player. Honestly, that is pretty much a different position this year for the Steelers. They just swapped from wide receiver to quarterback this year. But I don't get that sense for the pass catcher this year that it's all or bust on one player, which is why I'm more optimistic that it will actually happen before the season. Now, the question would be, is it going to be someone that's a cut casualty later on the rosters? Is it somebody that's going to be a trade, or if it's someone that's still going to be a free agent? I think that there's several options, and we've discussed all those options. I just feel more optimistic that that's actually going to happen this year as opposed to last year because the focus was only Ayuk last year.
Yeah, there's probably something to be said about casting a wider net to actually land somebody, but like we know, I mean, it sounds stupid to say because no GM's going into it thinking I'm not going to make a bad deal. We know Omar's not going to make a trade just to make a trade, though. Like, just because we in theory need a wide receiver. We saw how it played out last year. So if they feel like the value's not there, I think they'll just roll with the group that they have. But I'll say they add somebody that's at least within their top 4, 5.
I'll say yes too, just because I think that there's several avenues they could go: free agent, trade, or someone that gets cut at the end of the season.
I mean, I haven't heard anything about the free agents yet, and maybe that changes when we get to like once the Aaron thing is finalized, and they have a conversation with him about type of receiver that he'd like to have. Maybe that's when we start having.
That's what I was just going to bring up to you. Like, how much do you think that his opinion is going to sway into what Omar is looking for at receiver?
As long as it's just a 2025 and not a long-term thing, I think it could hold a lot of weight that they'd put into it.
Yeah.
Like, I think like if they might say, hey, look at what's available in free agency and tell us what guy. or obviously to Allen Lazard. So
yeah,
I don't know.
I think that makes sense.
But we're talking about cut down day. Somebody from that Packers room got to get cut. Even the Houston Texans room got to get cut. To a lesser degree, I mean, not that the quality of players is that much better, but the Patriots room, you look at the number of wide receivers, and somebody has got to get cut. Smitty from around the 412 here, and while I may not have much hair, the hair that I do have will not be cut by anybody besides Keek at Keek's Barbershop. My friend Christian Circle, been with us since day one. Keek's Barbershop, located 401 Burkitch Way, Suite 2 in Beaver, PA. Download the app The Cut, book an appointment with Christian today, or you can do walk-in with Tony or Ashley. But again, Keek's Barbershop, 401 Burkitch Way, Suite 2 in Beaver, PA. Go check them out. Old school vibe in there. Absolutely love it. Cannot recommend them enough. Wouldn't go anywhere else. Maybe I'll see you there. Let us know in the comments how you think this is going to play out, both TJ wise and pass catcher wise. Should we be keeping more of an eye on the tight end position than we were? Outside of Jonnu, I have no idea like who another tight end even would be, but who knows if it's something they're broaching the subject on. We'll see if it plays out. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell if you were here on YouTube. Leave us a 5-star review and subscribe. If you listen somewhere else, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts from, you'll find us there. Just search Around the 412. Follow us on all of our social medias at Around the 412. And regardless of where you're watching or listening, check out the description of the show. All of the links to their sponsors down there. We talked about Game Changers already and how you can save $10 using code AT412. We talked about Keeks. Download the app The Cut. Book an appointment today. Well, right above Tyler right now, we got Marcelo Electric, our friend Brandon Marcelo, a.k.a. Boots, his small business serving Beaver, Allegheny, Lawrence, and Butler County, doing residential, commercial, and service calls. Hit them up, 724-614-0611. Again, Marcelo Electric, 724-614-0611. Beaver, Allegheny, Lawrence, Butler County. He's got you covered. Down below, take you right to his Facebook page. All that contact information I read to you is there, along with all the bunch of pictures of his work that he's done in the past as well. Got his van redone. It looks sick. So super happy for him, super proud of him, and can't wait to see where this journey continues to take him. And then new addition down in the description, as I mentioned before at the top of the show, the Horse Nickel first. Sarge has a big thing about this, and I get it. They're calling this thing the first annual Memorial Golf Outing. Can you have a first annual? I know that that's a debate in itself. I know that they plan on doing this for more than just 1 year, but it's the first one of its kind. The Horse Nickel Memorial Golf Outing here going on Saturday, August 16th at 9 a.m. Fox Run Golf Course. Be sure to check that out. The link is down below. Got to register by the 5th of July. Not the 4th of July, the 5th of July. You get one extra day. Hopefully you're not too hungover to go and register. So maybe do it beforehand, before you even get to the 4th of July, so you don't get to worry about it. Again, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell if you have not already. For Tyler and myself, this has been the Around the 412 Steelers show. We'll see you next time.